Does it help ever if someone is grieving to sort of sit with them and say, tell me about the person that they've lost and I want to hear stories.
Yeah.
Like, how did you meet and what do you miss the most? Because I think people are afraid to bring it up because you're afraid to upset the person.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the griever is afraid they will be forgotten.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would challenge listeners and you guys, whenever you hear someone losing their person, say their name for them. It's such a huge honor to continue to honor them and continue to remember them. So say their name. What did you like? How did you meet? And it allows them to feel the emotions and remember their loved one and keep their memory alive. And that's how they grow through grief.
Yes.
Not they're just going to move on. They're going to grow through the process.
Hey everyone, it is great to be back with you. I'm Helen, and this is the Helen Mt Podcast.
Today on this podcast, we're going to bring you a remarkable couple who have turned personal heartbreak into a mission of healing and hope for others. Jason and Kirsten Clawson are grief specialists who help individuals and families navigate the often overwhelming journey of loss. Their work is rooted in deep compassion, experience, and the belief that healing is possible, even after life's most difficult moments. After walking through their own profound experiences with grief, Jason and Kirsten felt called to support others through their emotional, mental, and spiritual challenges that come with it. Together, they built a powerful platform that offers practical tools, heartfelt connection, and a safe space for those in mourning. Whether you're currently grieving, supporting someone who is, or simply wanting to understand this part of the human experience more deeply, Jason and Kirsten bring wisdom, warmth, and authenticity to the conversation. Before we get to this conversation, let's have a quick word from our sponsor.
So, Jason and Kristen, we have really been looking forward to this conversation, and thank you so much for making the time to be on our show. MT and I often talk about how important it is to have open and honest conversations around death and grieving. And there's so much that we want to ask you, but we were thinking the best place to start would be the beginning, which is how the two of you met and how did that lead to this beautiful supportive space that you have created for people that are grieving?
Yeah, sure. You want to start it?
Sure. So I lost my first husband to acute myeloid leukemia in 2020 after a 9-month battle. It turned out that he was chemo resistant and he had a gene that kept the chemo from working. So we were never able to get to remission. It was just, unfortunately, it was a death sentence. And he passed away at the end of 2020. And
I lost my wife to colon cancer. So in 2018, we went in for emergency surgery, exploratory surgery. And the doctor came in after surgery and said, "I'm sorry, Jason, but your wife has stage 4 colon cancer." So that's where grief began to kick in, anticipatory grief,
Yes.
changing our perspective of what we thought life was going to be like. And we had to adjust and adapt to our new reality. And after 9 months from diagnosis, 9 months later, we said goodbye to my wife. So it was relatively quick and a whirlwind of emotions and physical exhaustion and all of the above. So that's kind of we feel like we were just kind of thrown in things and trying to pick up the pieces as we were fighting it and trying to have hope and faith through the process and pray for miracles that didn't necessarily get answered.
Yeah. And so we ended up joining, obviously on our own timelines, but we both joined a Facebook support group for young widows and widowers. And that's where we first knew about each other. And I knew about Jason because, and maybe you want to tell this, but Jason, after he lost his wife, he and his boys started to provide service to other people who were going through the same thing by giving these sunshine baskets, these baskets full of yellow items to bring some joy and happiness. And he would post about that in the group. And so I knew who he was. And then interestingly, when I actually was forced, and I was forced to create a dating profile by a widow friend who said, "You've got to start getting used to the idea of finding love again."
How long after was all this?
It was about a year.
Okay.
For me, it was about a year. For him, it was a little bit longer, but I tried to appease her by creating a profile online, and I was just going to create it and then shut it down the next day. And wouldn't you know it, we matched right away. So, and I knew exactly who he was because we were in the group together and he knew who I was. And so that's kind of how our relationship started.
And were there ever any moments like when you came together, and I hope this doesn't sound trite, but was there ever like a feeling of jealousy for what each other had with your deceased partners? Like, was that ever something that came up?
No, I honestly can say no.
Yeah.
I think we came to a place where we did our work prior to get into the relationship, whether we process our grief, we did some of the hard things, we challenged the emotions that came up with us. So I think that allowed us to be in a spot where we could receive each other and be open to love again without jealousy.
Yeah.
And one thing that we've always talked about, talking about Cody and Valerie has always been a part of our relationship. Like they are in our relationship.
Yes.
And we talk about them openly. We talk about them openly with our kids. We have pictures in our house. We celebrate their day. And it's just like, there's no jealousy. That's just like, they're part of the family.
Which is great. And it's probably because you're both coming from the same place. Because I do have friends that had a partner that deceased and would be in a relationship, yet it's not the same because one did not have a partner that died, and cannot understand how the other person's deceased spouse can be so in their lives.
Well, because we understand that when a marriage ends or when a relationship ends, it's almost always the relationship needed to end through divorce or breakup or whatever it is. And so we've taught ourselves to believe that there has to be that separation, and there absolutely cannot be love anymore because that relationship is over. And when you're widowed, it's just different. And it should be different. You shouldn't lose the love that you have for someone that you love for so long. And I just remember when we first started talking, one of the very first things that we talked about was it wasn't trivial things. I mean, we dived right into our grief. We dived right into telling stories of our spouses. And I remember him telling me about Valerie and just thinking, oh my gosh, she would have been my friend.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and I think grievers and widows and widowers, and even people who aren't widowed but are partnered with a widow or a widower, I think that there's an opportunity to recognize that there doesn't have to be a competition. It really is a continuation of something that started really beautifully. So,
do you ever get stuck a little bit in where you are right now, and how happy or how you moved on? Do you ever get stuck thinking, should it not be like this? Should I give it more time? Should I just, I don't know, anything. But do you ever feel that?
I have not personally felt that. I don't know about you, but I do know that that is something that a lot of people struggle with who have lost someone, because they feel like they should not be happy. That person isn't here to be happy with them.
Yeah.
So they should not experience happiness. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think I felt a little bit that way after he first passed away. But one thing that I really had to come to terms with, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to dominate, but
No,
one thing that I
no,
really had
please.
to come to terms with is remembering who he truly was as a loving person. And I know that he loved me so much, and I believe he still does.
Yeah.
And that love was a selfless love. And because of that selfless love, he doesn't want me to be sad.
Yes.
I truly believe that. He does not want me to be sad.
Yeah.
He wants me to be happy. And that was just something that I had to come to terms with, and I had to learn so that I could.
That's powerful.
And tell him what he promised you right before he passed away.
Yeah. So interestingly, the doctors told us we had 12 to 24 hours left of his life, and he ended up living 7 days. So I knew he was going to pass. And we had this 7-day period. I just call it the 7 days, but we had this 7-day period where we were able to really dive into some emotional conversations. And one thing that he did say to me in those 7 days was, I'm going to get to the other side, and I'm going to find you a family that needs you.
Oh.
So he just right away was like, I don't want you to be alone.
Yeah.
We didn't have kids together. He had children from his first marriage, but that's what he wanted for me, is he did not want me to be alone. So
I think it's so wonderful that how you were able to have those conversations. And I know for me, when my brother passed, it was the same. We were able, like he would say, I will always look out for you. And there's this beautiful language and connection that you have, and it's bittersweet.
yeah.
So how did you take this then and turn it into what you've created, this beautiful healing space for people and helping people through grieving? How did that start?
I mean, I think part of our journey has been, like I said, we've done our work, we've processed some emotions, we've stepped into the hard stuff. So for us to be more open to helping people through this has been just a natural progression to be able to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I learned early on in my grief, and this happened when we were passing out the sunshine baskets, we'd pass out these sunshine baskets to people that lost a loved one, that struggled with cancer and were going through a hard time. Me and my boys would show up to be present with these people. And I learned on that when I can give myself an emotional timeout, a break from what I was feeling, it was healing, it was happiness, it was joy to be able to comfort and be emotionally available for people. So then when we started doing more and more stuff, we knew that needed to be a part of our process and our healing process. So we've always come to a place where we wanted to give back and we wanted to help. And we've seen the miracles from teaching and helping and gifting things over and over again, that it's just the way you heal.
Yeah.
You grow through grief and it transforms you. And we are so different than when our spouses got diagnosed with cancer. It's just the way that we've adapted, and it's the way that people can heal when you think of others and you're giving back. It's like paying it forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the sense of grief, where you don't sit in your misery, you don't sit in your discomfort, you don't sit in your sadness. You feel it.
Mm-hmm.
You feel it, and then you let it pass. But as you grow through it, it becomes a way of life and a way of joy and happiness that we both share.
Yeah. And it's probably from your experiences, grieving and understanding it, and how many people have said the wrong thing to help you. I mean, I'm sure, right? So it's, yeah, I can see that now. But from that, it's like a check. Okay, so this is something that I can bring, a tool that I can bring with helping other people. Even I get stumped, but I think the best thing is just say, accept it.
But I think too that, and I think that what you're saying too, it's like that thing of being of service. And I remember hearing Arthur Brooks talking about that is one of the greatest ways that we can heal. And when you were saying about giving the baskets, it's like that's being of service. And I remember my brother died of AIDS, so I went to Africa and I did some work there. And when I did that, I thought I was helping them, but they were helping me.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk a little bit about that, what that does, the service of being of service? Because it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I think I'll let Kirsten go, but I want to add, like, one thing that we've adopted too is the opposite of grief is connection. And I think it's more than just service. It's really connecting on an emotional level,
Love that.
human to human, even despite what we've been through. I don't think we can totally relate to my grief and Kirsten's grief, but when we can emotionally connect on emotional level, that's where the magic happens, and that's where the beauty of healing happens.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of theories and there's a lot of ideas that historically we've handled grief very wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The idea and the mentality was you just move on. You forget about it. You have to let it go. You move on. And more modern practices and more modern theories teach us that really we know that that's not the right way to heal from grief. We know that causes more heartache, more anxiety, more depression than it does acknowledging and learning to live with the grief. And so one thing that service does do, especially when it is in the memory of or in tribute of someone who is gone, is it allows us to learn to live with our grief, but apply a new purpose or apply a new meaning to that relationship. And that, I think, is really what helped you. And then I will tell you, Jason actually helped me with this. This is a concept that Jason taught me. I didn't know, we call it bracing for impact, right? The hard days were coming, his birthday, and then right after that, his death day, and I was just a ball of anxiety, and I didn't know what to do. And Jason taught me, do service in his memory. And so what I ended up doing is collecting donations. He was a school teacher. He was a PE teacher. And he always, he would just get so heartbroken when he saw a kid in need. And he loved shoes. He had a really big shoe collection. Yeah, shoes. And so Jason, as I was kind of talking to him about the anxiety and the stress and just the tremendous grief that I was feeling as these days were coming around, he said, well, why don't you collect some shoes and take them to a school, and the school can give them to kids in need.
Where he taught.
Yeah.
And we've done that now several times, and we've donated over 350 shoes.
Wow.
in his name. And that's a service that I do to honor my grief, honor my late husband, and do something that would make him proud.
And it makes those special days bearable.
Yes. It gives me something to look forward to.
Yes.
I'm not dreading them.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to them because I get to do this amazing thing. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
MT touched upon it about when people are grieving, what people, like I think when we spoke, like people bring casseroles or they say they're sore, or all these things that they do. What are sort of, I don't want to say the do's and don'ts, but could you just lead us through, like if somebody is grieving, how can we support them?
Thank you, because that's what I wanted to get to when I mentioned that comment about like what do you say? Yeah.
I mean, people don't say the right things all the time. I think people don't know what to say, so they say the wrong thing or they don't say anything at all.
Can you give me an example of a wrong thing? I'm curious.
The wrong thing to say?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's common to say, if there's anything I can do, let me know. But the challenging thing is you're putting stress back on the griever that has to figure out what they need, and then they tell another person to help you. So it puts a lot of pressure on the griever when we're just trying to get through day to day.
We're in survival mode.
We're survival, but for us to take a task that can be overwhelming and try to figure out, I don't think it's fair to the griever. So that is a very challenging thing that I heard a lot. I'd go to church, I'd hear it, and I was just like, I really don't want to figure this out. All I need is someone to sit with me, just listen to me, and just be present. And I think that's the best thing that I needed, because I was feeling all the emotions, I was feeling all the yuck, and I just needed to get that out. And if you are after the funeral, everybody goes back to their life and everybody disappears, and that's the time that you need the most support and help.
Yes.
Bringing over a casserole or bringing over paper products that I'm going to use is an avenue to come to my house. And if I want to talk or if I want to be there, come be a part of that. But don't just drop it off and say, I'll just pick up the pan.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think the best advice is just someone sitting and listening to someone that's going through the grief. Remember, we just lost someone out of our life and we're lonely, we're depressed, we're going through all the emotions, and we need more people in our life after the funeral than we ever do, just to be there, be present, take us out to lunch, and get us going again. And sometimes it's so helpful. We had a neighbor that came over and said, I don't understand grief, but I want to understand it. And she came and asked us questions how she could better understand grief.
Yeah.
And I thought that is so great and insightful for her. And now she's aiding a family that their dad passed away from suicide, and now she's able to take what she's learned and she's aiding this family in such a nurturing and helpful way, rather than trying to guess or trying to throw things out and hope it works, or this is what I was told to do. Sometimes that's not the right
exactly
thing.
But that probably, Jason, is people's discomfort with the idea of grief or death.
Yeah.
So so that's why they don't know what to do, or they rather just drop off and leave, because it's their discomfort with all the whole idea of it.
Yeah, and
entirely.
and they'll say sorry for your loss, and you get so tired of hearing that.
I remember I remember my husband, when his mom passed away at the funeral home, he was saying like he felt like he was comforting everyone.
Yeah.
Because people would come up and be like, I'm so sorry, and they'd start crying, and he was like, okay, no, it's going to be okay. And he felt like he was the one doing the comforting.
Yeah. People especially in those early days, they put your grief on the griever.
Yeah.
On the one and it's part of the process, right? But grief is just such an abnormal experience. Nobody's prepared for it. Nobody knows that's what's going to happen. I remember somebody saying to me, well, you must not be too sad, because in the pictures from the funeral, you're smiling. And
what judgment.
That was maybe the most hurtful thing said to me. Because I was surrounded by people.
Yes.
At the funeral, I was surrounded by people. I hadn't seen people in years and years and years who were at the funeral. I was surrounded by support. So of course I was smiling. I had the support that I needed, but when that funeral ended, just like Jason said, that's when the pain,
Yeah.
that's when the pain like really settles into your soul. And that's when you need the most support. But I would also say, just when people say the wrong things, anything that dismisses somebody's grief, like, at least they lived a long life,
Yes.
or at least you had them, or yeah, or at least you can get married again,
No.
or things
Wow.
like that. Anything that dismisses, and those have been said to us.
Wow.
Anything that dismisses somebody's grief, I think more than anything, it's so important that a griever feel what they're feeling.
Yes.
And allow them to feel what they're feeling. Just allow it. That's what processing is.
Yes. And does it help ever if someone is grieving to sort of sit with them and say, tell me about the person that they've lost, and I want to hear stories. Like, how did you meet, and what do you miss the most? Because I think people are afraid to bring it up because you're afraid to upset the person.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the griever is afraid they will be forgotten.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would challenge listeners and you guys, whenever you hear someone losing their person, say their name for them. It's such a huge honor to continue to honor them and continue to remember them. So say their name. What did you like? How did you meet? And it allows them to feel the emotions and remember their loved one and keep their memory alive. And that's how they grow through grief.
Yes.
They're just going to move on. They're going to grow through the process.
But again, that's probably ours and people's relationship with death that affects how they can help you grieve.
Yeah.
So it's just that the knowledge of it all.
It reminds me of that saying that we die two deaths, one when we physically die, and then one when people stop mentioning our names or talking about us.
Yes.
Yeah. So if people are grieving, then how do we sort of, what if you know that they're just in a bad place and that you can see that they're just going, further and further down, and that they're maybe not wanting to go out, or how can you help sort of I don't want to say bring them out of that, because I think you need to sort of let them have that. But does it ever get to a point where you just sort of go, okay, I think this is becoming unhealthy, where you need to sort of step in and help people?
I'll let you answer that as the therapist.
You want the therapist to answer that. I think what's important to understand is being consistent is very, very valuable. Mm-hmm. People will take their time in grieving, and sometimes the first, the second, the third text or message might not sink in because they might be in a difficult spot. So continue to be consistent. A short story about my neighbor, he was texting me over and over and over. He texted me 10 different times and I didn't respond. And the 10th one, I finally said, thank you. Keep texting me. I love this. And he was thinking I was ignoring him. And he was thinking I don't need his help. But remember, there's so much we're trying to process and recalibrate. But if we're consistently coming over, dropping stuff, being able to show up in their life, that is going to be so helpful. So it keeps the window of helping open when they are ready or when they're struggling. And if you're consistently doing stuff, then you're going to be available for when they come around and text to say, I need your help. I need you. So continue to be consistent. It's going to be so helpful. There might be some times where a person is just stuck in their grief. And I think in this spot, this gives you an avenue to bring over stuff that they might need. So a griever is going to need paper products, right? They're going to need paper and plates and cups that makes their job easier. They don't have to do dishes. They don't have to be piled up. So grab some of those, come over and drop them off, and you can be present with them. You can have that face-to-face contact to be able to check in with them and to see their emotions and see how they're doing. And I think creating these little moments to have face-to-face or say, I care about you, I'm here for you, is going to bring up that connection that they need you. And they're going to be more willing to invite you in when they're struggling and when they're in a dark spot. So be consistent and find needs to be able to help them. A great story that I went through myself is when I was struggling the most, I invited people over to my house to open up and talk about how I was struggling. And I call it my healing team.
Mm.
And what people didn't understand was how to approach me because of the way I was presenting. But what I was able to identify is there's some individual needs that I need help with, physical needs to take the pressure off so that I could deal with the emotions. And the physical needs are like the lawn needs to be mowed, yard work. Parents came over and did laundry, physical items and food that can help take the pressure off until they are in an emotional place to be able to open up and help.
That's good advice.
Yeah. And I guess you've had, Helen, your experience, death.
Yeah.
Especially with your brother.
Yeah. But I remember, and just sort of, excuse me, circling back where my brother, when he passed away, I think I shared this with you when I spoke to you, where it was a few years, I think it was about like 7 years after he had passed, and I was dating someone and I was putting up the Christmas tree, and I sort of took a breath and I said, this is always such a hard time for me. And he said, why? And I said, well, because I always think of my brother and I miss him. And he just said, when are you going to get over that?
Wow.
And I remember just thinking like, okay, this is done. I cannot continue to be with you.
Yeah.
But there is like, my brother's been gone like 38 years, but I still celebrate. Like on his birthday, I go to his favorite restaurant. I have a dinner. MT, I feel like you know him through me talking about him.
Yeah.
But there is that thing where I remember where people sometimes think like, oh my God, when are you going to get over that?
And to be honest with you, I think I said the same things before I knew Grieving. And that's hard for me because I think about all of the things that I did wrong.
You can go back and tell them, say, now I get it.
Yeah.
Now I get it.
Yeah.
I remember my friend's dad passed away unexpectedly, and she moved in with her mom, and I just was so unsupportive. I just thought that was just a terrible, terrible idea. And you're never going to move on if you're sitting in this sadness. That's what they needed. That's what they needed. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that then. And I think we've all done it, right? Until we really know it. And it's funny because Jason and I just recently have been talking through these very situations where somebody says something that is so hurtful, and grievers, again, brain fog like crazy. We're just in survival mode, and we don't know how to handle those things. And how we can help the grievers and the people on our account, how we can help them with the strength to say back, that wasn't helpful.
Oh, that's good.
That wasn't what I needed. What I need to hear from you is, I would love to hear more about your brother. So we're actually working on a product right now to make available to our followers that does exactly that helps people be better equipped with the stupid things people say.
It's funny. The first thing that came to mind when you said that this is what we should say back, or people who are grieving say back, like that was hurtful. I wonder if what stops them from saying that is that they already had a loss, and being that honest with somebody, they're going to lose that friendship. So another loss. I mean, that's the first thing that came to my mind. So it's getting the courage that it's not going to be a loss, but an add-on bonus of your relationship.
Yeah. Well, and one of the secondary losses of grief is friendship.
Yeah.
It is simply a part of the package, because there are friends who, and I know that sounds so terrible, but they're just our friends that aren't going to be willing or able to sit in that space with a griever. And it does end, or it does change friendships. And that is another experience for grievers.
And family members.
Yeah. Totally. Family members stop showing up, or family members say, when are you going to get over this? Your husband died. It was a year ago. Like, it's been a year, move on. It does happen. The best thing though is grievers have to have the right support for them.
Yes.
They have to create their support system around them. And so if there is a friend, or if there is a family member that is not meeting those needs, there has to be some sort of adjustment to the relationship.
So what about when, and I think it's the worst thing, losing your child, but when you hear, like, a lot of times when a child dies, the couples no longer, like, they separate. And even with the family, when everybody is grieving the loss of somebody, that must be really challenging too, because you don't have that capacity to hold space for that person, but you need it too. And it must be really, really challenging within the family.
One thing, I just had a friend reach out to me actually, because she's supporting another friend of hers whose father passed away. And this friend of hers continues to go to her mom for support. But her mom is in deep, deep grief and can't provide that support either. And so she reached out saying, how do I help my friend get the support that she needs? And I think that's important to remember. And sorry, you probably need to jump in on this, but I think it's important to remember that not everybody can give you what you need, but you do need to find the support that is going to work for you. So, like in my friend's case, the mom isn't going to be the person. Mom isn't going to be the person. Mom is grieving. Mom is in deep pain. Mom is making it worse for you because she's grieving too. So we have to find that right support somewhere else. I don't think people really truly understand until they live it how much work it is to grieve.
Yeah.
And that's part of it, is finding the right support and reevaluating relationships, and then, continue to breathe and get up and brush your teeth and try to get through the day. Like, grieving is a tremendous amount of work. But what would you say to that?
I think what Kirsten says, I want to emphasize, like, finding the right people for you. I lost a baby. It was 18 weeks. I didn't. My wife, Valerie. We lost a baby when she was 18 weeks pregnant. And I remember that grief is so much different than what I'm experiencing with losing Valerie and then losing my mom to cancer. But I remember I couldn't get my support from Valerie. Like, she was grieving. My own spouse couldn't help me in my grieving. So luckily there was a really helpful neighbor that would come by every week, and he would take me for a ride and take me out and talk to me and just say, what do you need, Jason? Let's do this together. And I was like, oh my gosh, where are all these people that need to be doing this on a regular basis? When we don't know what to do, people just come and grab us and take us. And that's finding the right people, the right situations, coaching people. Hey, that didn't work for me. I need more of this, can be so helpful through that grieving process, rather than the person keep doing the wrong thing and complicating the grief and the relationship. It's like, I love casseroles, but how about you just come over and talk to me?
Why is it a casserole, the dish
look at my counter,
of grieving?
it's
Like,
full,
why?
my fridge, and I'm throwing away food all the time that reminds me of my grief. Just come over and talk to me. Like, let's laugh. Let's watch a movie. That's what I need, rather than a casserole.
I was just saying, I'm going to change the casserole to something else, like it's a meat.
But Kirsten taught me, like, think outside the box here, guys. Don't think of, like, delivering food. What about a gift card? What about DoorDash? Whenever it's convenient for them, then when they need a night out or a break, they can just order it. It makes it so easy for them, rather than, I got to hurry up and eat that casserole because I'm going to feel bad when I see them at church.
That's a very good point.
Saying, how is my food? And you're like,
Are there tools, like you mentioned that you couldn't be a support for your deceased wife at the time, or your wife at the time, when you lost your child at 18 weeks. Are there tools that people can learn to how to help each other when they're both grieving the same person? Or is that just like a no-go territory that count on, you can't be there for each other, and use other resources?
Do you mind if I say something?
Yeah.
While you're thinking, I think that there is a great error in are thinking again about grief, especially in that case, because there is this idea that one person has to be strong so the other one can fall apart. And I think that is damaging. I think that they need to fall apart together. The idea that someone has to be strong, always has to be strong, or has to be strong so the other one can be weak. I don't think that's right.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I don't think that's right. But and we've learned that especially in like miscarriage cases, that happens. And the mom is falling apart, and then the husband thinks, well, I have to be strong. I can't feel this. I just have to ignore that this ever happened so that I can keep everybody, together. And then the man traditionally is ruminating and not processing his feelings. And then that ends up becoming a worse situation for the family.
Yes.
He gets angry. His grief is coming out in different ways because he can't express it. So anyway, the idea that someone has to be strong, I think is the wrong idea. I think you need to fall apart together.
Yeah. And
I'm trying to think of specific tools, but I'm like going to therapy. Like, I know that's the easiest answer. Or again, just finding your person to be able to sit with you and help walk the path with you. That connection and that loneliness away, it can be some of the most, it can be better than therapy. Like someone that's going to be there, show up for you, be consistent, help you get what you need, can be the best tool possible whenever you lose someone. Remember, you're losing someone, so there's this empty space, and we're trying to fill it up with a bunch of crap that we don't need.
Yeah.
We need people to just walk this path, be sad with us, cry with us, to help us through that process. And that can be the most amazing thing possible when you feel so isolated and so alone.
I think that's why what you both are doing, and even when I listen to Anderson Cooper's podcast, All There Is, where I think that we need more platforms like this so that people get more comfortable with grief and having the conversations. And there's an episode of excuse me, Anderson Cooper, where he and Steve Colbert are talking, and I just sobbed through the whole thing, but yet it was so beautiful at the same time. And I think that if people can listen, with following you or listening to other platforms on grieving, and even quite frankly, death, like we're all going to die. And which leads me to my next question. If we know somebody is afraid of death, does that make the grieving harder? Or if we know someone who's like, I'm okay with dying. And I think like your husband said, to you in his final days, does that make the grieving process, I don't want to say easier, but does it in some sort of way feel more hopeful?
I certainly think so. I don't know what it's like to grieve without faith. I am a very faithful person.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. And there has been nothing that has challenged my faith the way grief has.
But that happened. Other people, are the other way around. When there's death, they push faith away.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. And I am very grateful that I did not do that. Believe me when I say I wanted to. I so wanted to push my faith away because I was angry. I was angry to God that I believed in and that I do still believe in. But I just truly believe that I was better with the faith than without it. That's ultimately what kept me from pushing that faith away. But and I do think that it does help. And I think I will tell you, in fact, my 7-day period, I did not know death. I knew to be scared of it. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I was scared for him, and I was scared for me. And so during that 7 days, I read as many books as I could get on my phone to understand people's experiences with death so that I could feel more comfortable with it. That helped me a tremendous amount. And I do think that helps. And near death experiences, that really helped me understand, what he was moving into. But I don't know what it's like to grieve without faith.
I will say on our Instagram, when we read some of these comments, we automatically know the people that don't have faith or don't believe in the afterlife, and we don't have to know their stories, just their tone, their cadence, and the way that
their
they
despair.
write. Yeah, and even offering suggestions and resources. It's just like there's this hopeless despair that doesn't allow them to receive or be open to be listen or challenging or doing something different. And that creates a barrier for someone to kind of turn things around or get better. And it's so sad for us to watch, to be able to suggest when they don't have that belief. It's like final, like they believe that when they die, they're final, they never get to see them again. And how sad that is, to be able to think that you would never get to experience your loved one, rather than we're going to be with them again and we're going to have so many wonderful memories. And God loves us enough that he's going to put us together again. And the faith part that Kirsten's talking about allows us to be who we are, allows us to show up who we are, allows us to continue to provide resources and hope so that people can get what they need. I mean, early on, the doctor looked at me and said, Jason, cancer has a way of enhancing your life. And I can tie that into grief has a way of enhancing your life. And I think we are living examples that grief can be such a beautiful and joyful thing if you allow it and you embrace what comes your way. But you got to be open for it. And faith allows you to open for it. Connecting with amazing friends and family allow you to be open to it and allow yourself to go through this, because we've met, we've talked, we've experienced some of the most amazing things that we never thought we'd able to be possible. But because we're willing to lean into the discomfort, lean into those hard moments, like we have them all the time. Like we're not like the happiest couple on the block. Like Memorial Day was hard for us, and Sunday it's still hard, but we're able to still have happy and joyful memories with our kids, with each other. We're talking about Cody and the dumb stuff he used to do with our kids, sitting around the dinner table and saying, Valerie used to do this. And that's what makes grief so enjoyable, is because we've embraced it. We allow it to be a part of us, rather than we don't talk about it. We avoid it, or let's put the pictures away. I mean,
I moved him out here.
Cody's picture's
right outside.
That's beautiful. Can I ask you some? Oh, sorry, I interrupt you.
No. Go.
Okay.
I
just want to, on your note about faith and how important it is. I mean, I can use your help because I have a family member that has pushed faith completely out of her life with the death of her child. And there's a lot of anger still. And this is after 5 years. So if there's anything that I can do to help her find faith again, I would love that. But I just listen.
I think it's going back to that consistency part. Continue to show up for them, continue to be consistent, continue to be emotionally and physically available. And then there will be an opening where, because you're consistent and you're present with them, those conversations will start happening and they'll be able to start talking about those openly with you on their terms.
Oh, no, she does. She's open about, like,
this is
I'm
great.
angry at God. I'm not going to talk about, God is out. And I just want to kind of open up her mind, but I don't know if she's ready.
Yeah. And she might just give you that answer for a really long
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I consistency is so important. And I think also demonstrating that faith, your faith, with her. I hope she follows us, because that's not something
after this. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't shy away from talking about, experiences of death and of faith and of, life after death. We share pretty openly about, our experiences with that. So I think she's probably going to feel that way for quite a long time, but use your faith, to help her recognize that there is beauty in that.
I will.
When you were speaking,
thank you for that.
It reminded me of Andrew Garfield, and yes, and when he was on Steve Colbert. I don't know if you've seen this yet.
No.
And Steve Colbert says something like, when he was working on a movie, said that must have been really difficult because your mother passed away during this. And Andrew Garfield got, as you know, he got choked up, and Steve Colbert said, "I'm sorry." And he said, "No, don't be sorry." And he goes, "I can only cry and feel this because of how much I loved her. And I will carry this pain with me for the rest of my life because that's how much I loved her." And I think that is just so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's what society has told us to get rid of for so long. It told us, don't admit that. Don't feel anything. She's gone. Move on. Don't be emotional. And now we know that is entirely the wrong way to handle it. Grief is, I've heard it explained, grief is like a pebble that you just carry in your pocket for the rest of your life. There's just a little bit of heaviness with every step.
Yeah.
And that is what grief is. Sometimes you feel it. It's heavier some days than it is other days. Some days it's lighter, but it is always there. And I think what we try to do is teach people, embrace it.
I'm writing this out. Yeah, that was good.
Well, and it's interesting because I think that when you were talking earlier, the interesting thing about grief is that you think you're okay, and then it'll be something like, "Oh, I want to pick up and call my dad," or or weddings, or there's certain things where it'll just sort of come in like a wave, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, it's there again," and that's staying in it. And of course, it's going to be there, right? If you like this, whoever we have lost has had such an impact on our lives, so it's always like, why would you want that to go away?
What a hard and hurtful thing for somebody to hear, right? When they somebody that they love so much, is that person just really needs to go away. Aren't you over it yet?
Yeah.
That's not how it works. I just don't believe that that's how life is supposed to work. That's not how death is supposed to work.
Wow.
So what do you think happens when we leave this world?
Ooh, do you want to answer that?
That's a great question. Well, our faith believes that there is an afterlife, that we're going to be with our families again forever.
Yeah.
And we are going to be a part of their life forever. So there's just a temporary loss. Yeah. We don't get to see our loved ones. And what's hard is that I think here on earth, as we lose our loved ones, we're really sad.
Yeah.
But the other person on the other side is enjoy and doing God's work and just waiting and preparing for us to come and be together forever. And it's such a beautiful and comforting concept to know that we'll be with our loved ones, and knowing that Cody and Valerie are up there, they know each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're just waiting for us to be a part of their life. And that's why we are able to wake up and be excited about living in this grief, because this is not a final stage. This is a step into what God has prepared for us to live forever as a family. And we're going to be happy and joyful like we are on this earth, but to a more higher level.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I'm trying to think of the word scared. You've mentioned a few times scared of death.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's actually a fear. Maybe people are like a fear of, the actual death and what happens. Mm-hmm. I look at it more of a huge sadness that you won't be able to just be able to do the the same touch or smell. Like,
be with the people
present.
you love. Yeah.
And I know for me, like, it's not the fear. So I find that word scared a bit difficult to use because it's not the action. I think maybe scared of the suffering leading to your death, but more of a real big sadness at the moment. Does that make sense?
Like that you're losing your physical.
Yes. Yeah. And that's how I look at it.
Gotcha.
So I when you're talking about, people are scared of death, it's like, is it scared the right word? Is it just they're unsure,
The unknown.
Yeah.
Are they sad? So I kind of sometimes want to reuse that word, but
Yeah. That's a really good point. And maybe this is a little bit off topic, and if you don't mind, I'll just share a story. And I actually have not shared, I don't think I've ever shared this publicly. I'm sure you know about it, but 7 months after my husband died, his brother died from the very same cancer. And when I heard that his brother wasn't going to make it, I was living a state away. I got in my car, drove down here as quick as I could so that I could be with the family and I could say my goodbyes to Jared. And the night that he passed away, I was staying at my in-laws' home, and we had just gotten home from the hospital. Jared had passed away, and I went and I laid in bed, and I felt a hug, and I just felt like there was pressure surrounding my body, and I knew immediately there was no question that Cody was there. And I spoke to him in that moment. I spoke to him and I said, "Am I doing what you want me to do for your family?" And that pressure, that feeling, that embrace lasted for several more seconds. And then it was gone. And to this day, I cannot deny that experience. I cannot deny that Cody, I knew, like, I can't even explain. I knew unequivocally that Cody was there saying, "Thank you for showing up for my family the way that you did. Thank you." I knew it. And that experience, I did mention that I was scared of death. My understanding and my peace that has come with death did not come in a lump sum. It has come in bits and pieces as I've experienced it. And then as I've had these sort of experiences where I have felt Cody, or I felt my grandparents, or, it's just kind of opened up, and the learning and the growth in grief has just come in bits and pieces, and that has relieved the fear or the unknown for me. And there's still a lot of things, like, I'm like, heaven sounds a little boring. I'll be honest. Like, are you guys having fun up there? Are you playing cards? Like, are there burritos?
Can we dance?
Yoga guys.
I love that. God. It's interesting.
Thank you for sharing that story. I got tearful from that one because I've had my own experiences with my God, the presence, and that feeling that you've had was very poweruful.
And it's interesting when you say the pressure, because when my brother comes in, it's always on my left side, and it's like this, it's like this pressure that comes in, and I just know that he's there. And I get this wash of,
what about the right
it's
side?
this wash of like this love and peace. And you just know, like, you can't explain it. You just know that it's them.
Well, I wonder why the left side.
Yes.
I don't know. And I always ask him, like, when I'm going through challenging times or when my kids are, I'm like, "David, I need you to be with me. I need you to watch out over." Like, I talk to him all the time.
Yeah. And that's just what we have to embrace.
And that's beautiful. And that makes it beautiful too.
So beautiful.
Can we just touch? Can we just touch on before we say goodbye to you? You talked about anticipatory grief. Is that how you say it?
Anticipatory?
Yeah. So
Anticipatory.
MT's parents, like our parents are getting older, and your dad had an incident, and
94 and 89.
Yeah. Can you just share a little bit about that? Because the grieving process can start before somebody leaves us.
Yeah, I remember my examples right when my wife, the doctor came in and said, "Hey, your wife has stage 4 colon cancer." And I feel like that's when I started to kick in that anticipatory grief, because I was anticipating the worst and all the emotions and all the feelings that were going to happen, because I was thinking, what if I lose my spouse? So I am I'm catapult into that moment that I'm thinking I'm going to lose her. So I'm going to feel all those emotions that come with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people don't understand that you can start early and you can start withdrawing, you can start to feel the loneliness, you can start to feel the depression, because someone is not going to be a part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And what you envisioned, what life was going to be like, your brain has to recalibrate. It feels different. So all of a sudden, when it's different, it comes with different emotions. And that is the flood of emotions of anticipatory grief. You can get it with someone getting diagnosed with cancer, someone in the hospital, relationships. Yeah, it can kick in all different ways. So I think we need to be aware of that we are feeling this grief long before the person's passing, and it will help us process those emotions if we feel them and we're talking about them. So when the person passes away, we will be in such a better position when they pass away if we embrace the anticipatory grief.
Okay.
And it's like we're dealing with some of the emotions now rather than dealing with all the emotions when they pass away. I think I would greatly deal with parts and pieces, and then parts and pieces when they pass away.
Okay.
That's helpful.
That's
Thank you.
beautiful.
I think too, people don't know that they're experiencing anticipatory
Yeah.
grief. And I think it's really important for individuals to acknowledge that that is what it
Yes.
is. It's not just sadness, like you're grieving, you're starting the grieving
Yeah.
process.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
And I think that's probably why people say stupid things, is they're going through the grief and their brain's clouded. So they just say whatever they need to make themselves feel good. And their brain's not working very good too. So
Wow. Thank you both
Oh.
so much for being here and just for sharing your beautiful wisdom and insight. And this was magical.
Oh, I could keep going. And
Yeah.
I've left with a lot of great knowledge from you. Thank you.
And we're going to have more information about you in the show notes. Do you have a website, or is it just your Instagram that you have?
It's really just our Instagram.
Okay.
That's
And
what
your
I call it, yeah.
Instagram is
I have.
Light after grief.
Yeah.
Light. Okay, perfect. And to our listeners, if you found this helpful, or if you know of anybody who you think that this episode would really benefit, please share it with them, because it might just be what they need. Please make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and we love you.